Don't wait until you fall sick. National Health Insurance, leaving no one behind. Health insurance. Chingiriza banjala boy way, protect your family.
Wow, that over there is a very nice Ford. Have you seen it?
Of course. I have been looking at it since we got here. My worry is how people manage such vehicles and where they buy genuine parts from.
I'm sure there's nowhere else apart from Shuma Auto Parts. They are the only supplier of genuine Ford and Mazda parts, which comes straight from the manufacturer. They have everything in stock for both latest and ordinary Mazda and Ford. They also stock service parts such as diesel filters, aircon filters, diesel pumps, steering pumps, turbochargers, engine overhaul gaskets, suspension parts, and body parts. If they don't have parts you're looking for, they can order within 5 to 10 working days. To top it up, Shuma Auto Parts also supply Maxxis tires and CST tires.
Really? But where are they found?
They are found on Chandram Sonda Road, Cruiser Auto Workshop in Lusaka. Call on 0979 192057 and 0960747235. Email shumaautoparts@gmail.com. Shuma Auto Parts for all your genuine vehicle parts.
The happy world of 5FM Radio, your adult contemporary radio station in Zambia, connecting you to the newsmakers and events that make news in the global village.
Good evening. This is the 5FM News at 18:30 with Judith Mwape. The headlines. Former President Lungu urges police to behave in a civilized manner. Action Aid Zambia concerned with ZRA's limited capacity to audit mining companies. Job scam cons Mozambicans out of thousands of dollars. And now the news in detail. Former President Edgar Lungu says the alleged misconduct of the police might precipitate a situation where President Hakainde Hichilema may be forced to give up power before the 2026 general elections as people may rise. Mr. Lungu, who was barred from visiting detained PF Information and Publicity Chairman Emmanuel Mwamba at Kabwata Police Station, said it was clear that the officer in charge was under instructions not to allow him to see Mr. Mwamba. The former head of state indicated that the police officer threatened to use tear gas and call for enforcement on him and his team, an action he said was uncalled for. Mr. Lungu said has urged the government to focus on tackling real issues affecting the nation, such as the high cost of living and the drought situation affecting the country, rather than fighting the PF and the opposition political parties. He has also advised the police to behave in a civilized manner.
Where President HH is forced to give up power sooner than later, before 2026. I'm saying so because people will rise. What I heard happened this morning when the police were tear gassing citizens in Kabwata because they wanted to check on the Honorable Nakachinda who was incarcerated there. It's uncalled for. All they could have done was just explain to the people where Nakachinda was, get the information across to them without trying to intimidate. The more they try to intimidate us in PF by being arrested, by being cast, the more they annoy people. Let them focus on the real issues which are facing the government.
Meanwhile, police have apprehended and detained Edgar Lungu-led PF faction chairperson for information and publicity, Emmanuel Mwamba, and 3 others for the offense of disorderly conduct in police station. According to police public relations officer Ray Hamonga, Mr. Mwamba, who was accompanied by a group of cadres, allegedly engaged in unruly behavior under the pretext of offering solidarity to Party Secretary General Raphael Nakachinda, who was detained at Kawata police station. Mr. Hamonga has identified others detained as Jacqueline Chipo, aged 40, of Matero, Gideon Tolopa, aged 43, of Kamwala South, and Gift Kanchingwe, aged 32, of Phase 4 Extension, Minwood, Kamwena, Vona Valley. He said the 4 arrested individuals are in custody as police are waiting for them to avail sureties for them to be released on police bond as by law established. Meanwhile, Mr. Hamonga said Mr. Nakachinda has been released on police bond.
Today at approximately 8:30 hours, Patriotic Front Party supporters gathered in the pretext of offering solidarity to Mr. Raphael Nakachinda, who was detained at Kawata police station. Among the first individuals to arrive was Mr. Emmanuel Mwamba, accompanied by a group of cadres who engaged in unruly behavior. As a result of their disorderly conduct, were apprehended and detained for the offense of disorderly conduct in police station. The police are actively addressing the situation, and the 4 arrested individuals are in custody as police are waiting for them to avail sureties for them to be released on police bond as by law established.
Action Aid Zambia says the recent revelations about Zambia Revenue Authority ZRA's limited capacity to audit mining companies makes a very sad reading. Action Aid Zambia Interim Country Director Jovina Nawanzake says while the organization commends ZRA board chairperson for the honest revelation, it is sad that the country is losing revenue on account of lack of capacity by ZRA to audit mining firms. Ms. Nawenzeke has proposed that the government enhances capacity building for ZRA staff, which she said requires adequate financing to ensure that members of staff undergo high-quality training. She has further called on the government through the Ministry of Finance to reform the current tax policy in personal income to relieve the burden placed on individuals. The Action Aid Zambia Interim Country Director said there is need to reduce the high tax rate of 37% to effectively increase household income to afford their basic needs. Meanwhile, Ms. Nawenzeke has expressed concern with the increased inequality caused in part by these measures. She observed that the tax systems have the potential to address inequalities and correct market failures for sustainable and equitable development.
Zambia is currently in a state of fiscal austerity that entails the government cutting down on spending while increasing tax revenue collection to reduce the fiscal deficit and in turn the need for public borrowing. ActionAid Zambia is concerned with the increased poverty and inequality caused in part by these measures. Tax systems have the potential to address inequalities and correct market failures for sustainable and equitable development. While the pay-as-you-earn tax system is progressive, however, there are concerns by some sections of society about the burden of pay placed on few employees working in the formal sector.
Technology and Science Minister Felix Mutati says that with the debt restructuring that government is undertaking, the country is assured that resources will come into the country, thereby allowing innovation and technology to thrive. Mr. Mutati says with the range of unlimited ingenuity that is inherent in many young innovators, Zambia is in the Champions League with regards to information technology. The minister said government is creating an enabling environment and policy framework for innovation and also disclosed that in the last 3 years, over 4,000 innovations have been supported in Zambia by the UNDP. And Mr. Mutati said government targets to reach an 80% target of internet connectivity by the end of this year in order to accelerate innovations. The minister said this recently at the launch of Mokuba University Innovation Pod, which is a physical space offering opportunities for training, coaching, refining innovations, and building skills for students from low-income families in developing their innovations into viable ventures. Another story is trending this evening. United Nations Development Programme (UNDP) has praised Zambia for its peaceful status among African nations, but has expressed concerns over its persistent poverty levels. The Zambia Meteorological Department says the promotion of the irrigation agenda in the country should be sustained side by side with the restoration of forests. Up next, the business news.
5FM Radio Business News. We mean business. Keep you current in commerce, trade, and industry, local and global. It's our business to keep you informed about business.
Finance Minister Stumbeko Msokotwane has described as satisfactory the performance of commercial banks during the period January 2020 to December 2022. Dr. Msokotwane told Parliament that this is despite the various setbacks presented by the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly during its peak in 2020. The minister elaborated that the assessments of the performance worldwide are determined by the use of metrics such as capital adequacy, assets, liquidity, and profitability. He said regarding capital adequacy, the banks meet the minimum regulatory requirements of above 5% in 2020. The minister was responding to a question from Kalabo Member of Parliament, Chinga Miutu, who wanted to know whether commercial banks performed financially well from January 2020 to December 2022 during question for oral answers.
By the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly its peak in 2020. Madam Speaker, the financial performance and health of the banking sector across the world is usually assessed using various metrics or quantifiable measures used to track progress and evaluate success. These metrics typically relate to capital adequacy, asset quality, profitability, and liquidity.
That ends the business news.
5FM Radio Business News. We mean business. Keep you current in commerce, trade, and industry, local and global. It's our business to keep you informed about business.
And now on foreign news. Scamming victims in Mozambique say they have been conned out of thousands of dollars by a fraudster who promised them jobs in Portugal that did not exist. 13 people in Mozambique's capital, Maputo, each paid between 20,000 and 60,000 meticals to a man who said he would arrange their travel and papers. A Portuguese suspect found with 13 Mozambican passports in his possession has been detained by the police. 2 other Mozambican nationals are also being held. Here's a roundup from the BBC.
Poachers in South Africa killed almost 500 rhinos last year. That was despite increased government efforts to tackle the illegal trade in horns from the rhino, an endangered species. The Italian government says 3 people from the same family who were kidnapped in Mali in May 2022 have been released. They were seized close to the border with Burkina Faso. A group linked to Al-Qaeda was reportedly behind the kidnapping. A court in the Netherlands has sentenced the leader of a ruthless drugs cartel to life in prison after a wave of murders and attempted murders. The judge, whose identity was kept secret for his own security, said Ridwan Tahi decided who should be killed and caused barely imaginable suffering. He was one of 3 defendants jailed for life.
And finally, in sports news, Ghana women's national team coach Nora Hopto is confident her team can overturn the first leg result and qualify to the last round of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games qualifiers at the expense of Zambia. The Black Queens trail the Copper Queens 0-1 from the first leg and need a good result to secure a 4th round date with either Morocco or Tunisia, but Hopto was positive when she spoke at the press conference on Tuesday morning. The Swiss coach believes Ghana has what it takes to deny Zambia their 2nd appearance at the Olympics. And now, the weather report brought to you by Classic On.
Class Econ Roofing Africa. Class Econ Roofing, plot 17100 off Katanga Road, 150 meters from Mumbwa Road, Chinika Industrial Area, Lusaka. Class Econ Roofing. Class plus economy. Class Econ. Class Econ Roofing Africa. Class Econ.
Luapula, northern, Muchinga, and eastern provinces, including the eastern parts of central and the southern parts of Lusaka and southern provinces, are mainly cloudy, windy at times, and mild with rain and thunder. Copperbelt, northwestern and western provinces, including the western parts of Central Province and the northern parts of Lusaka and southern provinces, are partly cloudy, windy at times, with mild with isolated rainfall, especially over Chirundu and surrounding areas. That ends the weather report.
Class Econ Roofing Africa. Class Econ Roofing, plot 17100 off Katanga Road, 150 meters from Mumbwa Road, Chinika Industrial Area, Lusaka. Class Econ Roofing. Class plus economy. Class Econ. Class Econ Roofing Africa. Class Econ.
And that weather report brings us to the end of the news this evening. But before we go, a recap of the top stories. Former President Lungu urges police to behave in a civilized manner. ActionAid Zambia concerned with ZRA's limited capacity to audit mining companies. Job scam cons Mozambicans out of thousands of dollars. For more news, follow us on Facebook, 5FM Radio Zambia. On behalf of the entire news crew and the technical department, thank you for listening to the Happy World of 5FM. Stay safe and stay tuned to 5FM Radio. I'm Judith Mwape. Good evening.